Thanks, Emily. Thanks, Simon. Good morning, everybody. Great to see you all and have you all joining us for our February member roundtable. We're going to focus on the services that are funded by downtown property owners through the Metropolitan Improvement District, and an opportunity for you as members of DSA to learn more about those services, how you can access them, and to hear directly from the folks who are leading that work and managing those teams and programs. So we have a lot to cover today, and we want to leave opportunity for your questions. As Emily said, if you've got questions that come up, please drop them in the chat. We'll see if we can get to them as we go, or we will get to them at the end and leave room for some Q&A. We've got a number of speakers and members of our team, and collectively they have more than 50 years experience in leading this work and these programs downtown. So they know their stuff, and they're here today to help you better understand the stuff and the work that they and their colleagues lead, which is funded by downtown property owners. So here's who you're going to hear from today. I'm going to serve as your sort of MC here, and we're going to move through a number of speakers at a fairly quick pace here. Before I hand it off to Steve, I want to just give a little bit of context and the basics around what the MID is and has been. It was founded in 1999 by the downtown community, who came together and said, we want to pay some additional tax dollars on an annual basis to supplement city services. And then the city council adopted an ordinance to form that district. All property within that district, whether it's hotel, residential, or commercial office buildings, is paying a special assessment on an annual basis to support the services that you see bulleted there. The district has been renewed and extended a couple of times, the last time being in 2013 for a 10-year term. So the term will expire in July of this year, and we are working and proposing a extension of the program for another decade, and we'll talk a little bit more about that reauthorization and renewal process later in our program. This mechanism of organizing the private sector and private property owners to supplement city services has really flourished and taken off in the U.S. over the last 30 years, really. So you go to most downtowns across the U.S. and North America and other parts of the world, and you'll find a district like the MID and an organization like the DSA that is managing the services. About 1,700 or so of these districts across the U.S. And we've seen an increase throughout our city as well over the last decade. So a district in Ballard and SoDo in the university area as well. And I think has become a really key mechanism in the revival of our urban cores and cities over the last 30 years, a way in which the private sector can partner with city government and public agencies to steward our urban cores and our downtown. And I think that mechanism's more important than ever as we face some continued challenges and turbulence as we make our way out of the pandemic. Over the last year, the MID, which is governed by a 35-member board of property owners, they serve in an advisory role to us as the program manager and to the city of Seattle. They've recommended a number of changes given the current set of conditions and challenges that we see within the greater downtown. And our team over the last year or so has been implementing those changes out on the street. Those included a significant investment in unarmed security. You see one of those individuals here in the photo, a team managed and deployed by our partner Iron and Oak Security. So we're investing now around $2 million in unarmed security, about 800 hours a week. And that it comes on top of contracts with the Seattle Police Department for additional bike patrol officers as well. The board directed us to get much more mobile in how we clean the streets of downtown. We previously deployed most of our cleaning ambassadors on foot, dragging a bucket on wheels with a broom. We've gotten much more mobile, and you I'm sure have seen a significant number of three-wheeled electric trikes out on the street that make it easier for our team members to get up and down hills and get to messes much faster than on foot. So we've got more than 30 of those out on the streets of downtown. Today, some are equipped with pressure washers, all are equipped with buckets to deal with trash and other messes and biohazard and needles and things of that sort. We made a significant increase in our ambassador wages to address a significant number of vacancies. We went from about 38 open positions on our ambassador teams in August to the single digits today. The increase in the wage from $17 to $20 an hour for the entry wage was a big part of that. We've also brought in a recruiter and an ambassador specialist that's providing case management, peer support, and housing support to our team members, a majority of whom have come with some experience of living homeless, living on the street themselves, or some involvement with the criminal legal system. We've also worked to increase the visibility of the programs and the set of services to make it easier for stakeholders, customers, members of the public, property owners, property managers to understand them and access them, and made some adjustments to the technology we use to track our own activities and the outcomes out on the streets. This is the general district and set of boundaries where the services are provided. If you're a property owner within that district, which on the north end, that's Denny Way, on the east, Interstate 5, on the west is the waterfront, and the district now extends through most of Pioneer Square, but doesn't include the entire historic district. Within that area, the property owners with property and commercial use, so not government-owned properties, are paying that additional assessment on an annual basis to support the services outlined here and the others that I covered. And I've got a number of colleagues that lead those services and programs, and I'm going to hand it over now to Steve Walls, who leads our cleaning team. It's the largest team and the largest expenditure out of the $15.5 million or so that is raised and assessed on an annual basis. And Steve will talk through in more detail what those services look like, and then we'll hand it off and work down the agenda. And again, if you've got questions, please drop them in the chat. I'll keep an eye on the chat and see if I can put them to Steve and some of our other speakers as they go, if they can be answered quickly. If not, we will carve out some time at the end of our program here. So over to you, Steve.
Okay, thanks, John. As a recap of our services, the clean team is responsible for the cleanliness of downtown, which consists of daily sidewalk litter pickup, curb line cleaning, syringe removal, graffiti removal and paint outs, biohazard waste cleanup, alley cleanups, scheduled sidewalk pressure washings, leaf removal, and composting. Our hours of operation are 7 a.m. to 9 p.m., 7 days each week. To provide these services, we have budgeted 79 ambassadors who are equipped with yellow buckets, brooms, dustpans, and cleaning supplies to pick up and remove syringes, litter, and also graffiti from public fixtures. For alley cleanup, we provide daily litter pickup while also assessing the alley for biohazard waste cleanups and illegal dumpings each day. For scheduled sidewalk pressure washings, we will provide 2 annual pressure washings each year. This is a great service, as many of our ratepayers have taken advantage of to enhance the cleanliness of their property. Last year, we provided 206 sidewalk pressure washings. The leaves continue to be our greatest challenge during the fall season. We have partnered with Cedar Grove to compost the leaves. We just concluded our leaf season and have collected over 82,000 gallons of leaf bags for the season. Next slide, please. The trikes have become, we have a fleet of equipment that consists of 3 green machines, 2 ATLVs, also known as all-terrain litter vehicles, and 41 trikes. The trikes have become a welcome addition to our fleet of equipment, as they have allowed us to respond to cleaning service requests in a timely fashion. We have a dedicated team of 7 trikes that come equipped with a pressure washer and a 16-gallon water tank that will respond to biohazard waste cleanups, food spills, and any other issue that may impact the cleanliness of the area. Over the past 20 years, we have always done our cleaning with brooms and dustpans. However, after listening to our ambassadors' concerns about how we can make the job better, brought forth a new vision of transition to electric assisted trikes. Now over 60% of our team are operating some sort of equipment. That concludes my report.
Hi, I can jump into the next section here. My name is Brian Cannon. I oversee our Community Safety and Hospitality program. Today, I'm going to share an overview of the services that my team provides. The Community Safety and Hospitality team consists of 29 uniformed ambassadors. We operate between the hours of 7 a.m. and 9 p.m. each day. Our work falls into three main categories: addressing specific ordinance violations, providing welfare checks and referrals for people who appear to be in need, and providing on-street concierge and safe walk service. Next slide, please. Every morning, we start our day with wake-ups. Ambassadors will approach people who are sleeping in doorways of businesses that are signed with Seattle's Condition of Entry program, or folks that are in violation of the sit-lie ordinance, especially if they're blocking an entryway to a building. Ambassadors are not law enforcement and they're not security guards. They can't physically detain or remove someone, but they are trained in de-escalation and managing of aggressive behavior. And many of our staff have other trainings such as mental health first aid as well. Many of the issues that we address are often solved with a conversation and requesting that somebody change their behavior. This also leads to the next role for CSH ambassadors. If you're waking up somebody every day and you're doing it correctly, you're going to get to know that person and you're going to build a rapport with that person. Our ambassadors conduct an average of 600 welfare checks each month. These can be during wake-ups, they can be when we see people throughout the day, or when we're engaging with somebody who might be suffering from behavioral health issues. Our goal is to build relationships with people who are living outdoors, who might be struggling with addiction, behavioral or mental health issues, and be able to connect them with some of the local agencies that we work with. We meet with the King County Regional Homeless Authority, reach, lead, and co-lead on a regular basis. And a lot of that focus is as we get to know people who are out on the street and we get to know who they are and what their needs are, we can often do a handoff to an agency that's going to be best suited for their needs. Next slide, please. The next role that I'm going to talk about, ambassadors also act as on-street concierges. They often provide directions to over 140,000 people each year. This past year especially, we saw a marked return of visitors and tourists in downtown. In July and August, there were around 3 million visitors each month, and hotel occupancy for those months was close to the 2019 levels. Being able to connect with and help visitors have a positive experience in downtown is an important part of the work that we do. Our ambassadors also provide safe walk service. Our ambassadors can meet and walk with people to their destinations. Especially for somebody's commute home, we often have folks ask our staff to walk with them to a bus stop, to the transit tunnel, or to a parking garage. Ambassadors can also wait with somebody for their bus. That's a question that we often get, and we're happy to do that. If somebody would like to request the Safe Walk service, that can be arranged by calling our main line at 206-441-3303. We generally ask folks call about 30 minutes ahead of time, but that said, just go ahead and call and request that service. We can usually get there a little bit faster if needed. Next slide, please. And then to talk about a recent shift that we've made just to adjust to differences that we're seeing out in the field. Beginning in June of this past year, our ambassadors, as well as Iron and Oak, our contracted security staff, began carrying naloxone. We partner with the Washington Department of Health for training and receive a monthly supply of the nasal spray version of naloxone. It's voluntary for our ambassadors to carry, though the entire Community Safety and Hospitality team is trained to carry. And more recently, the entire Pro team and many members of the Clean team are also trained in carrying as well. And we do equip the Iron and Oak officers with naloxone. Since we began carrying in June, our mid-staff and Iron and Oak officers have administered naloxone 82 times. And this has been incredibly impactful for our ambassadors. They've expressed that they feel better equipped to address a lot of these tough situations that they come across, and they're thankful that they have the tools and training to be able to make a difference. Next slide, please. Another adjustment that we made in the past year, beginning in January of 2022, we contracted with Iron and Oak Protective Services to provide security to our mid-staff and for our ratepayers. Iron and Oak security officers partner with our Clean Team ambassadors every morning to assist in the higher impact areas. They've gotten to know many of the folks along those routes, and they use that rapport to ask people to clear doorways in along buildings. This allows our ambassadors to get in and safely focus on core services, a lot of what Steve talked about, including cleaning trash, removing bio-waste hazards, pressure washing, and painting out graffiti. And in the evening, the security officers pair with our community safety and hospitality ambassadors to provide presence in higher foot traffic areas and areas with known safety issues, especially where we know that there are businesses open. And officers can respond directly to requests such as trespass, conditions of entry, and they can intervene if they witness an assault or a crime against a person. Through their work, they're able to support our clean and safe teams, ratepayers, and as well work with SPD. Similar to other services, their hours are also 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. Next slide, please. And then one more service I want to make everybody aware of. We partner with Barb Biondo, the crime prevention coordinator for the West Precinct, to offer de-escalation and personal safety classes. The focus is on basic personal safety precautions that people living, working, and commuting in downtown can use to stay safe, as well as tips for calling 911 when police or medics are needed. The de-escalation training teaches how to recognize, reduce, and manage aggressive behavior using effective and compassionate methods. We often work with businesses and organizations downtown to provide this training to employees, and quite often with a focus on staff that work directly with the public. If people are interested either in more information regarding these classes or if they would like to schedule a training, they can email Sam Dick Jr., who is our lead trainer. I have his email here on the slide, and I'll go ahead and I'll put that in the chat as well. And that concludes my comments.
Hey y'all, thanks for having me here. I'm Kirk Hogan-Cotter, the Executive Director of Commute Seattle. And if you don't know us, Commute Seattle works to make it easy to walk, bike, ride, and roll for the 300,000 people who go to work in the Metropolitan Improvement District, along with the 100,000 people who call it home. We are a team of 8 who work directly with employers to help build out world-class commute programs and get things like transit passes into the hands of their employees to help make it easy to retain and recruit top talent from across the region. We also work directly with property managers to build out amenities like bike facilities and help make it easy to reach those buildings from across the region to help property managers attract top tenants and help their employees get to their buildings every single day. Next slide. We're the team of 8 that's here to help make this easy, answer your questions, and help make your building or employer easy to reach from across the region. We're a team that can answer questions on new changes in terms of transportation, help you understand city and state regulations and make them stress-free, as well as directly help your employees with their questions and help them figure out how to get from A to B as easily as possible. Next slide. And right now we're at a big moment for transportation in Seattle. Over the next 2 years, we're going to see some of the biggest changes in transit and transportation that the city has ever seen. In 2021, we saw the expansion of light rail north to the University District, Roosevelt, and Northgate neighborhoods. And next month, we're going to see an expansion of Rapid Ride H to Delridge, White Center, and Burien, making it fast and frequent to get from Delridge in West Seattle into downtown Seattle. In 2025, we're going to see light rail extended to the south to Federal Way. We're also going to see a new line open to the east side, connecting the Metropolitan Improvement District to Bellevue, Overlake, and Redmond. We're also seeing new changes in terms of policies that were enacted just last year that affect how people get around. If any of your staff or residents of the mid are 18 and under, they now ride transit for free. Residents at the Seattle Housing Authority are now being offered free transit passes by the city. Plus, right now, we are in the midst of watching Sound Transit plan the expansion of 6 new light rail stations within downtown. They're going to connect downtown to more people across the region. Next slide. To take advantage of these new investments, we work directly with employers to help get transit passes into their hands, helping businesses sign up for Orca Business Passport. This is a huge deal because it helps make accessing transit more affordable and easy for employees. Annual transit pass for an employee in the Metropolitan Improvement District over an average year costs about $1,200. Through Orca Business Passport, this only costs an employer $300 to be able to provide that transit pass to their employee, helping employers and property managers retain and recruit top talent. Our team is here to help, and we'd love to set up a consultation with you to talk more about how you can get your business or your property signed up for this service. Next slide. But we've heard from anecdotes from property managers, residents, and employees in the Metropolitan Improvement District that public safety and safety on transit is top of mind. And our partners at King County Metro and Sound Transit are taking action to respond to those concerns. Metro is expanding the hours of transit security officers on their light rail system, their transit service. They're hiring additional transit service operators. They're making investments in bus stops in downtown to help make them more lit and more visible, as well as they're working with other social service providers. But I want to highlight what Brian brought up with Safe Walk. This is an incredible partnership between the Metropolitan Improvement District and a great value add to make it stress-free for people who work downtown to get to bus stops. So please take advantage of Brian's service. And rounding out, next slide. We also help property managers make sure their properties are set for the bike boom that we're seeing in terms of e-bikes. Reach out to our staff at Community Seattle to help get a consultation on how you can make your property easy to take an e-bike, a cargo bike, and how you can get bike racks and create a world-class bike facility at your property. We've seen just a boom in the number of people biking into work throughout the pandemic and still today. And this is a way to help take advantage of this. So please reach out to us at Community Seattle. We're happy to talk with you more about how you can take advantage of the new transit investments, how you can get transit passes in the hands of your employees, and help make your property easy to reach by walking and biking and rolling. Next slide. Finally, we also help make city and state regulations stress-free. If you're an employer that's affected by commute trip reduction regulation, meaning you're an employer with over 100 employees, or you're a property with a transportation management plan agreement with the city of Seattle, or if you're a business with over 20 employees, you are affected by either commute trip reduction law, transportation management programs, or commuter benefit ordinance. And our staff is here to help make those stress-free. So please reach out. We're happy to have a consultation with you to help you understand how you can meet and achieve these and make complying with city, state law stress-free and make your property easy to reach from across the region. So thank you so much.
All right, perfect. Thank you. My name is Michael Johnson, and I'm the director of the Parks and Public Realm Operations, formerly Park Ambassadors, for those of you who didn't know. So the Pro Team basically sets up all of the parks that DSA manages. So we start from Bell Street Park, work our way down to McGraw, and then we go to Westlake, and then we go to Occidental. My team is the only one that doesn't have bikes or trikes also, so there's a lot of steps involved. So typically they're logging close to 12,000 steps a day and managing the different parks and whatnot. They also set up the regular activations, assist with the programming with Valentine's Day, Downtown and Summer Sounds, and some other stuff. Also the maintaining of the hourly cleanliness in the parks. So in conjunction with SPR, we're making sure that things are nice and tidy, wiping down the tables and chairs in between people having lunches and whatnot, which is important. Provide important information and directions for the people that are patrons within the parks and then also within the area. And then also we track assets throughout the mid and make sure that we're communicating with our business partners, which we're going to talk about a little bit later. Next slide, please. A season of holiday programming. So we did a lot of fun things this past year in order to make sure that we were bringing some vitalization back to downtown Seattle. As you know, that we were kind of kicking out towards the end of some of the pandemic stuff, and we did some really fun things, kicking off the holiday season with tree lighting that we did in Westlake Park. We had close to 5,000 people that were in attendance there. Really great celebration. We had Gia and Ursula from 97.3. The mayor had a chance to speak, and we had a couple of concerts down there as well, which is fun. In addition to the holiday programming, we had holiday concerts also in Westlake Park every single Friday. We also did an ice rink that was down in Occidental Square weekend of December 9th, 10th, and 11th. And it was really nice because we had partnerships with Seattle Seahawks, with the Kraken, as well as the Alliance from Pioneer Square. We did a holiday market on a Saturday, and we had close to 3,000 people in attendance for that week. So it was really fun working with our community partners and bringing some vitalization and some exciting activations down there during the holiday programming, which was very, very nice. Next slide, please. Oh, there you go. Yep, move that. Love is in the air. So, oh, we're going really fast. All right. What we're doing recently is we partnered up with a couple of local artists. We really went out there and tried to reach a bunch of different people from various areas and trying to make sure that we were representing the culture of what downtown Seattle is and not just doing some cookie cutter things. And so throughout each of the parks, we had some of these things called Holding Hope. And what we wanted to do is create some new designs on these particular things and distribute them throughout the mid. We have 2 of them that are in Westlake Park right now. We have 1 in McGraw, and then we also have 2 down in Occidental Park. And all of these artists are from BIPOC origins, and just making sure that we had some cool, fun, unique, beautiful things that are out there representing the mid, which is really, really nice. Another fun thing that we did is Lunar New Year celebration. And so we had the lion dancers that were out there in the parks, and they did about an hour in each of the parks in Westlake and as well as Occidental. And it was really, really great to have the participation. We handed out, we had some Chinese lanterns that were up in the trees. We did some different lighting aspects of it. And then we also handed out some red envelopes to each of the people in there. And they had a ticket where they could scratch off, where you either got a gold token, you got a silver token, or you just got a really fortunate with some lucky winning lottery numbers, which is always fun. But yeah, one of our huge focuses that we are really trying to do is making sure that we're embodying a lot of the representation of our culture and making sure that we're purposeful with our programming. One of our things that we're trying to do in 2023 is reconnecting Seattle with our programming. And with that, we're trying to make sure that we're very, very purposeful in working with our different community partners, but making sure that we're representing all the diversity and things that make Seattle beautiful, which is fun. All right, next slide, please. And we have lots of fun things that are going to be coming up. And so I'm really proud of my team for their efforts this year and kind of taking this theme of reconnecting Seattle and bringing some diversity in there. And so we are partnering with some folks from different organizations that are down in Occidental Square. We're going to be doing a flower market that's going to be featuring 20 local vendors, flower vendors, candle vendors, some unique artists coming through and just bringing something that's going to be fun and unique. In addition to the holiday market that we did on there, which had some great success, we want to do something that's going to be something to celebrate what spring has on there. And so it's going to be really beautiful. And we have some really cool decorations going to be out there. So I encourage everybody when you get an opportunity. And that one's going to be on March 24th to go down in Occidental Square to see that spring flower market. Also, we were able to establish some really, really great partnerships with our local sports teams. And so between the Sounders and the Mariners, we have some partnerships that we have going on for each of their opening day events. So typically the Sounders down in Occidental has their March to the Match, which is going to be down there where they kind of go through and have their band go through and play. And there's a bunch of different fun food and activities that'll be there. And then also with the Seattle Mariners coming off their playoff run, we're excited to partner with them for their opening day activities as well in Occidental Park. We're going to go through and have a Scooby Dog hot dog vendor that's going to be down there. We're going to have a caricature artist. We're going to have a couple of pitteds down there and some other fun partnerships with the Mariners to make it nice and cool down there, which is really, really excited about that. And then, as we all know, the MLB All-Star Game is going to be coming as well. And we're working with the Seattle Sports Commission and bringing in some batting cages. We're going to have some cornhole competitions and some other really fun things. We're going to bring in some music and some other lively things. And again, this is going to be in partnership with the folks at the Seattle Mariners and just making sure that we are leaning into all the people that are going to be down there and making our parks look nice and beautiful down there. And then, of course, our annual Downtown Summer Sounds concert series last year was great success. Over 75% of our artists were from BIPOC origin. Again, that's a huge focus for us. This year, we're kind of expanding that net and not just doing Seattle artists, but we're going to do artists from the Pacific Northwest so we can kind of get a wider range. But we're really excited. We actually put out an RFP for music contractor, which we're going to be finalizing today. And we're really excited about the different things. The theme is going to be a little bit bigger and better this year. And so we're going to try and make it not just a concert, but an experience. And so we're going to bring a couple of different elements in there in order to make sure that when you're coming down, whether it's going to be for lunch or an evening concert, that you get the full meal deal and not just going through and coming in and dipping out, but you can have an experience where you get to feel like you're part of something special. And again, like I said, the theme of this year is going to be reconnecting Seattle. So that'll be a good opportunity to bring some of the folks from the office to come down and just have a good time. And then also, we're going to be, with the success of the ice rink that we had down in Occidental, we're going to be bringing a roller skate rink that's going to be down there in mid-July as well, which is going to be fun. It's really nice to go through and have these great partners that we have in order to put this stuff together, because this stuff costs a lot of money. And with the funding that we get, we're able to do that. But then also some of the sponsorships that we get from people is very important, because they help us go to that next level and not just do a thing to do a thing, but like I said, do things that's purposeful and make an impact in our community and our organization, and working with those community partners and working with key individuals that are able to put in the work to make something fun and exciting. And so really excited about all the programming that we've been doing and making a difference down in downtown Seattle. All right, next slide. All right, and partnering with a purpose. So this is the last thing that the pro team is responsible for. So basically what we do throughout the mid is we have close to 285 square blocks, obviously, that we go through and we log actions that happen within the month. So there's a good example of a missing light pole. We can go through there and whether they're damaged mailboxes, whether there's graffiti, whether there's potholes or whatnot. And what we're trying to do is make sure that we report the things that we're able to take care of, but we want to make sure we report it to our city partners as well, in order to make sure that they can log things on. And so as we kind of go through, and we have lots of eyes on us coming up with All-Star Game and with the NHL Winter Classic, and then eventually with World Cup and whatnot, we wanted to make sure that we're doing our part to represent our city the best way possible. And again, being able to go through and communicate with our city partners and some of the things, and having a tracking system. And there's a lot of behind the work that goes involved with the app and tracking these things and making sure that we're keeping up to date on them on a weekly and monthly basis in order to make sure that we're making some improvements and doing our part to make a difference. So yeah, and all this stuff is all about building effective relationships with our city partners. So it's not just going through and pointing a finger and saying, hey, this is what you're doing, this is what you're not doing, just making sure that we're working together to make a positive situation in downtown Seattle. All right, I believe that's it for me.
Okay, thanks, Michael. And part of my name is James Cito. I'm the Director of Media Relations and Issues Management with DSA Mid. And our team, the communications and marketing team, part of what we do is trying to tell the story of all the great work of the Mid programs and the Mid ambassadors throughout the year. And so some of the ways in which we do that I'll talk about today: earned media, social media, and also our dashboard or website channels that we happen to use. So first off, for earned media, if you look at the last 6 months or so, and take into account the large scale events, the art installations, the investments that we've made in cleaning resources and in hiring new ambassadors, we've had more than 35. I think that number is probably closer to 50 stories over the past 6 months in print, online, radio, or television outlets. And that really gives us the chance to talk about the connection between the work of the Mid and the ambassadors and the on the street daily cleaning efforts, daily safety and hospitality efforts, and connect that story to the story of downtown's recovery. A really quick example of that is anytime we've done a story, and we've had 2 rounds of them regarding the investments in the Clean Team trikes, it's a story that the media has an appetite to cover, because we are giving them something that they can relate to the viewer, that is tangible about what they're seeing down on the streets for conditions. So we pair the investment in Clean Team trikes with a data point. For example, in 2022, more than 1.2 million gallons of trash picked up through downtown sidewalks, curb lines, and alleys, and explain how the investment in the trikes, and there's now 30 clean trikes and then additional 11 service trikes, but how those trikes make that work that much more efficient and effective. Next slide, please. For our social channels, we're primarily using Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and LinkedIn. LinkedIn is where we're able to amplify some of those earned media stories that we get. And then also all 4 of those channels, it's where we can tell the story of the ambassador profiles, ambassador short clips, as we call them, or ratepayer testimonials. The ambassador profiles are routinely some of our most popular pieces of content. And a lot of them simply begin with a matter of fact question and answer with an ambassador. These are not scripted in any way, but a simple matter of fact back and forth about what the work entails. And then that quickly will become a conversation with the ambassador totally on their end about the pride that they have in the work that they're doing, in the sense that they are taking care of downtown and really aiding in downtown's recovery in a very direct and impactful way. You can find our ambassador profiles on our YouTube channel. There's a separate playlist specifically for them, and of course on all of these social channels that we employ as well. The ambassador short clips is something that we've done with a little bit more intention really over the last couple of months. And what we're doing there is taking anywhere from probably about an 8 to 15-second clip that we're recording very quickly out on the street with something that an ambassador is doing in that moment. And some of these things get really, really intense engagement and really far-reaching engagement as well. An example of that is the ambassador you see on the screen there. His name is Aubrey. And that clip of Aubrey painting over graffiti on a postal box that's just right down the block from our office here on Olive is, I think it's about 8 or 9 seconds. And on Facebook alone, that clip has been viewed, and this is as of yesterday, more than 12.4 million times, and that's since November 19th. So that's only on one channel. We also put that on YouTube for YouTube Shorts, and then that of course spread pretty quickly as well. But we found it's a pretty effective way to show just sort of a really short snapshot moment in time of the important work that the ambassadors are performing day in, day out. Ratepayer testimonials. Our most recent mid-ratepayer testimonial was with Sam's Jeff Drager. Jeff, I think I saw you, that you're in attendance this morning. Thanks for joining us. And really that also is a conversation that is really unscripted. It's talking to the ratepayer about the work that the mid does day in and day out, and how that impacts their operation and how that impacts downtown's recovery. A really easy story to tell because of the work that these people are doing day in, day out. Next slide, please. And another tool that we've been using recently is the Downtown Recovery Dashboard, and we're getting ready to update that later today. These are monthly updates to key metrics that we're using to track downtown's recovery, and that's another way in which we can occasionally impart a metric that we're tracking for any of the mid programs to help communicate that connection to downtown recovery, but also what we're tracking for return to office, for visitor foot traffic, any trends or storylines that we can impart about the current status of things in downtown, and spotlight upcoming events or conferences to further convey the idea of reopening and sort of the re-energizing events that are happening within downtown. And I should also note that in addition to that being on our website, we also have our own news content that we update specifically regarding mid programs and projects on a quarterly basis, and that's for the Mid Dispatch newsletter, which hopefully you all are receiving. And for more information on the recovery dashboard, you see the URL down there at the bottom of the screen, downtownseattle.org/recovery. That's where you can find the Downtown Recovery Dashboard. And that is it for me, although I would note that an upcoming story that we will be telling is a very important one, and that's mid-renewal. And with more on that, here's John Scholes.
Thanks, James, and thanks to our my terrific colleagues for all that they've covered and all that they do. And I want to also hold up the 130 full-time ambassadors that are out on our streets 362 days a year, 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. doing incredible work, and they were there throughout this pandemic. That's a lot of service provided on a daily basis, a lot of programs, and I want to just acknowledge and thank the property owners, all of you who've invested in those over the course of 20 plus years. It's been critical to downtown's evolution and success. And those programs continue to make a difference. We've got more people living downtown today than we had prior to the pandemic, 100,000+ people. We've had the strongest 3 months of our return to office metric since the beginning of the pandemic. And the first week where we saw more than 50% of office workers relative to the same week in 2019 spending 3 or more days a week in their office. We had that week back in January and had about 44% across the whole month of office workers spending 3 or more days a week in the office. So those numbers continue to trend in a positive direction. Our visitor numbers this summer were close to our visitor numbers from 2019. And while the hotel occupancy in the winter here still is about 20% softer than what we would expect in 2019 or what we saw in 2019, we know as we look ahead to the spring and summer, we've got a lot to look forward to as far as events and activities and conventions that are going to continue to draw visitors to our downtown, including a record cruise season, All-Star Week, the women's NCAA regionals in March over at Climate Pledge, and many large concerts that haven't been through town in quite some time that will begin to fill Lumen Field and Climate Pledge as well. So we are making a lot of progress. We're not where we need to be, but we're headed in the right direction. And these services, along with, I think, some of the significant actions we've seen of late by our partners at the city and the county, are making a difference when it comes to safety, security, and the challenges we face around homelessness. We pulled some crime data just this week, and when we look at violent crime in the core of downtown, so Stewart to Yesler, I-5 to the waterfront, we've seen a nearly 20% reduction in total violent crime in 2022 compared to 2019. So fewer violent crimes in the last year relative to what we saw in 2019. A similar trend when it comes to property crime. When we look at the entire downtown, the greater downtown area, we've seen about a 10% reduction in violent crime between 2019 and 2022. When it comes to tent encampments in downtown, about a year ago, we had 130 or so different locations of tents within the greater downtown on the sidewalks. Some of those tents being used for folks spending the night, some for illegal and illicit activity. Today, we've got about 12 in that same geography. So we're moving in the right direction when it comes to addressing tent encampments, getting people inside, and addressing tents that were being used for drug sales, use, or retail theft. We still have a lot of work ahead, but we are moving in the right direction when it comes to the key metrics that we've been tracking and creating a healthy and safe and welcoming environment for everybody. And the services that have just been covered in that investment that we've spoken about will come to an end in July of this year if the programs and the district is not reauthorized. And that's the process that we've been in with the 35-member mid-ratepayer board, along with our staff and property owners throughout downtown over the last several months to propose a new 10-year plan, a set of services, a new boundary that will be extended slightly to the south to abut T-Mobile Park, and new rates and a new budget. We put out that business plan last fall and distributed petitions to all 1,200 or so property owners within the district and are collecting those petitions today. The city requires us to demonstrate that 60% of the properties that will be assessed in the first year of the 10-year plan support reauthorization. As of this morning, we've collected about 15 petitions representing about 59.7% of that number. So we are within spitting distance. We expect to get to 60% today. If you've got a petition and you haven't sent it back yet, we'd love to have it from you. If you're a downtown property owner, and if you've got questions on, if you need another copy of it or you can't find it, you can let us know. But we are making good progress. And then we will present those petitions to the city of Seattle in the coming weeks, and they will consider an ordinance and hold hearings in March and April and adopt legislation that then would be signed by the mayor that would ensure that these services and this investment would continue for another decade beginning in July of this year. There's lots of people that want to see this happen, and if you are one of them and you're not on our list yet as an identified downtown champion, we'd love to hear from you. You can contact Nick Jackal. His email is there. We're asking folks to show up and testify at City Council, to speak out in support publicly, potentially with reporters. There's a couple of ways in which we're asking folks to help ensure that these services and this critical investment will continue for another decade. So we'd love your help in joining the chorus and identifying yourself as a champion. So please drop a note to Nick and let him know that you'd like to help. And we'd love to have your support. So with that, I want to just open it up for questions either on the process of renewal or any of the services that we covered today, and also call out a couple of additional links on our website for additional resources in downtown. This is sort of the one-stop shop for you and the general public for all the things that are happening in downtown. So events that we're putting on, but also events that others in the community, other organizations are putting on in downtown. So check out lovectown.com. So I want to leave the remaining time for your questions. You can drop them in the chat. You can unmute yourself. If you don't know who to direct it to, you can just ask it and I'll try to get it to the right person. So we welcome your questions and input.
John, have we exceeded the 60% threshold on the petitions?
We're at about 59.7 today. And so we expect to get there likely today. There's a number of petitions that we know are coming in. They just haven't made their way to us yet. So we expect to get to 60. But we'll, if you've got one, don't sit on it. We'll take it. Other questions, you can unmute and ask them directly. If you want to drop them in the chat, that's great too. Steve, there's a question from Tricia about the trikes and whether they're using the bike lanes, the vehicle lanes, the sidewalks, how we're sort of deploying them.
They're using the sidewalk primarily, depending on how far they have to go. But if they're going long distance, they will use the bike lanes.
I think we're generally keeping them off the streets though, is that right?
Oh, that is a nice. Yes, I can assure you that. And if you are witnessing any ambassadors in the street, please let me know.
And there's another question, Steve, in the chat around graffiti removal on private property. Can you address how we deal with graffiti on private property in addition to the graffiti we're taking off public property?
Yes, I was responding to that. So just to recap a little bit. So our business has always been within the public realm, but since the pandemic and a lot of businesses was hit and they didn't necessarily have the resources available to provide those services, we decided to help them out and provide this service for them, as long as they sign the graffiti waiver and give us permission to do so.
So there's a little bit of a process if you're a private owner and you want us to, on your behalf, deal with the graffiti. We just need to know from you that we're good to do that. So you can get in touch with our dispatch to help facilitate that. Is that the best avenue, Steve, for private property?
Yes, you can also request online at our webpage. So you can either call our office at 206-441-3303, or you can request those services online.
And then Jeff had a question, Steve, about just how we prioritize our own graffiti removal and what our teams are doing with what the city might be out there doing as well in the downtown. Can you speak about any coordination between SPU or other city agencies and what our teams are doing?
Yes, so we take care of it all. If we see it, we come upon it, and we have the capacity and ability to remove it, we can go ahead and do it. Oftentimes the city does reference us as their point of contact if it's something that they cannot get to immediately, and so we will respond. So the idea behind graffiti removal is try to remove it as quick as possible to try to discourage the taggers from tagging it. So we usually like to respond within 24 hours.
And Brian Jai with PCC had a question just about the escort services and how late. Oh, it looks like you answered that in the chat. Sorry, I missed it. But we offer the safe walk services till 9 p.m. and we're able to extend till 9:30 if needed. Sounds like. And breaking news from Simon on our team on our petition gathering numbers, we just hit 60%. So we're getting out the champagne over here, and you all should too. And so we will be transitioning our efforts now, although keep sending petitions. We want to get well above the 60%, but we needed to get to 60 in order to show the city that there was the support that they require. And so now we will engage with them, and we are going to want all your help. So go team. Other questions? Question from Kathy on the website. It looks like, James, do you have that handy, or Steve, on the page where we've got the info on graffiti removal?
Yes,
Yes.
I'm about to put it in the chat.
Okay, thanks, Steve.
Other questions or feedback you have for our team on these services or the renewal process? If not, we'll give you a little bit of time back in your morning here, and thank you for joining us. And thanks again to our incredible team for what they do each and every day, and for helping the downtown community better understand these services and how you can access them. I wanted to flag our upcoming State of Downtown event over at the new beautiful Summit building of the Convention Center on March 14th, the afternoon of March 14th. If you're not already registered, I'd encourage you to do so this week. Seats are just about sold out. We've got a great program with Edward Glazer, professor from Harvard University, who wrote Triumph of the City and most recently Survival of the City, and we'll include also remarks from Mayor Harrell. So we look forward to seeing you there March 14th over at the new Convention Center building, and you can register at downtownseattle.org. Encourage you to jump on that this week. Thanks everybody for joining us. Thanks to the property owners who have been making these investments, and for thanks in advance for your support as we switch gears here and engage with the city council and the mayor to ensure that these services continue for another decade. Have a great rest of your week, y'all. Take care.